Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft to Glory MyNBA here in NBA 2K26. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we had quite the tough time despite being the first seeded team. As you can see, we ended up getting swept by the Dallas Mavericks. So I think a major reason why was obviously due to the injuries, but also our team just for some reason couldn't keep up with them. Like guys like Cooper Flag did really well against us. So it was definitely a really tough series, and it's unfortunate that we got knocked out so early. The thing is with that, though, is Dallas was able to actually get to the conference finals as well, so they also upset Utah. But then you had New Orleans and Dallas in that conference finals, and I feel like we could probably beat either of those teams, but for some reason, we couldn't. New Orleans ended up moving on to the finals, and the 76ers got lucky because New Orleans suffered a big injury to Richie Solomon, who is technically, I think, one of their best players, and the 76ers end up repeating as champions. So kind of crazy that the 76ers are still doing this well, but hopefully we don't have to run into them in the finals like next year if our team's good enough, which they should be because we should be getting a lot more growth again this offseason from our roster. I'm just hoping for obviously a lot more health, especially in the postseason. But you can see our roster is very strong on paper, especially in our obviously starting rotation. But obviously the bench options are still where we need to grow a little bit more. So I'm hoping this offseason we get good growth from Goodwin. Maybe he's like an 80 off the bench. Maybe guys like Carroll could jump to 77, all that type of thing. So hopefully our bench options get a little bit better, and that makes it a little bit better for our team to go on a better run in the playoffs. I know I just said better like 3 times. I didn't mean to say it like that, but you know what I mean anyway. So yeah, hopefully we have a good offseason ahead. I don't know what this draft class really is going to entail because we haven't really looked into it. So obviously we're going to be looking into that relatively soon, and hopefully we can find ourselves a good player in this draft class to continue building up that depth and somebody that can maybe make an impact for this team for years to come. So with that said, let's get you guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into the entire offseason and see what this team looks like for another season ahead. So the first and only comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says, the Anchorage thumb twirlers, haha, blame the loss on injuries, maybe reduce minutes down the stretch next year, and yeah, that's definitely something we could do. I didn't even think about doing something like that, is reducing minutes down the stretch, just because that way guys aren't getting injured and all that because they're a bit more fatigued. But basically what I did in between episodes is I actually went to coach settings, which I didn't know this was a thing. You could go in here and adjust everything. So I changed player minutes to manual. So we will actually get to change our player minutes manually, and then the AI shouldn't adjust our minutes manually as well, which is, or it shouldn't adjust our minutes that we have on players. So I think this is the perfect thing that we need to do, and that way when we get to like say March or all that, if we're on a really good record, we could lower player minutes down by like 3-4 minutes or something like that, so they're not risking those big injuries right at the end of the season, and then obviously missing some of the playoffs. So player minutes is set the manual now. Everything else is still on auto, I think, for now, except for, actually, I guess, I don't know, I don't remember having these on manual. I thought those were on auto before. Play calling, and we can just keep it like that for now. It doesn't really matter too much, but we'll go with that. And yeah, let's take a look at what this upcoming draft class is supposed to be like. I don't know really what we need technically, because we have a lot of great things in every single area. Because you look at point guard, Carroll obviously was injured in the playoffs, but Buchanan actually looks like a pretty decent player despite not having decent potential or overall. Because in those playoff games he played, though, or that one playoff game he played, he dropped 19 points. The first one he dropped only 5 points in 10 minutes. And you can see also in a couple other games, dropped 1 point, 2 points. So nothing crazy, but he wasn't getting a lot of minutes at that point. We upped his minutes to start, and he actually did well. And same goes with the regular season. When he was playing as a starter, he was actually dropping 10 plus points a game. So I think he's still not a bad player, but I don't think he really obviously has that high ceiling. But then you can see shooting guard. We have some good shooting guards, of course. Reese is probably a guy that we could replace this offseason. So maybe shooting guard is something we'll look into. I'll write down shooting guard just as an option in case. I mean, I could probably move Buchanan to shooting guard if I really want to. But if there's a better shooting guard / point guard option out there, we could always look in that. So that's definitely something for the upcoming draft class. We do have a lot of small forwards. There is a good chance I'm going to probably be letting go of Wennington, so that way Bridges could get more playing time next season. So that's probably something that we are going to be looking into. Power forwards, we don't really need another one, I would say, because we have 3 of them already. And in centers, I think we're fine as well, because Oliveira is probably not going to get much playing time anyways, but if he gets good growth, he could be a decent enough option if we end up ever losing Bishop at some point in time. So Yeah, I'm excited for the offseason growth. I think the most in this team for this team this offseason, just to see how good this team actually is looking next year. Like I think the bench will look a lot better, and then obviously if we have a good draft class, I think that should make it better as well. But let's go to the mock drafts and see what the AI has us drafting in our spot. Just because obviously I have no idea really what is projected around our pick even. So we're drafting in dead last in the first round. They're saying that they would that we would take a point guard in Michael Kerr. So they are saying point guard, shooting guard, which is exactly what I was thinking. Because if we move Buchanan to shooting guard, we could have a need for a point guard. If we decide to keep Buchanan as a point guard, then obviously we'll need a shooting guard because we're going to be letting go of Lloyd or whatever his name is. Or no, not Lloyd, Reese. That's what I mean to say. But Michael Kerr, let's take a look at him, see what the game is saying he's going to be like potentially wise. C+ potential, I mean, that's not great, but he is a 72, potentially around 21 years old. That's not bad. But obviously, I'm hoping maybe for a better option in that spot. There is some other point guards and shooting guards supposed to go late, so maybe some of these guys will fall a little bit, like this Pollard guy. Potential's unknown. Nelson Wallace, what about you? C+ as well. I feel like it's definitely going to be tough to have a great pick with our last selection, but who knows, maybe we'll get lucky. 2K says we'll take Bradley Neely with the last pick in the first round, who's 20 years old, and he is a shooting guard with probably around C+ potential. Bradley Neely could be a good option for sure. It's probably going to come down to him, Kerr, guys like Kolomac and all that. Any of these point guards / shooting guards, if they fall and they're actually good potential, we'll obviously probably take them. This one says we'll probably take Charles C. Finley, who's also a point guard. So, yeah, I think the game's pretty much on the right path. This guy actually might be a B- potential, so that might be useful, but he doesn't look super great in either areas, but he might have a higher upside than some of the other dudes. And then that's basically it. So, yeah, I'm not too sure what we're going to go with, but I think we're definitely going to point guard or a shooting guard. I just don't know which one, obviously, because it depends on what the AI takes before our picks. So, let's get first to the rest of the other offseason stuff before the draft, and let's see what we got. So, first and foremost, player retirements for 2034. Any big names? Giannis. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Giannis had his farewell tour. He retires with the Golden State Warriors. You have Jaylen Brown retiring with the Mavericks, who knocked us out of the playoffs, of course. Naz Reid retires with the Kings. You have Zion retiring with the Mavericks. So a couple big Dallas Mavericks players retiring, which might be good for us because that might give us a higher chance to beat them if we have to run into them in playoffs, or maybe they don't even make the playoffs next year. But then also Herbert Jones. So nothing super big in terms of names other than Giannis, Jaylen Brown, and I'd say Zion. But there is all that. And a lot of guys that were obviously unsigned as well retiring. So some of these guys were people that were just filler players on our team, like Steve Henderson Jr. I remembered him. Only 22 years old, but retiring after just being a filler player on a roster for a brief little bit last year. So shout out to him. But those are all the retirements. All right, staff retirements. What do we got for staff retirements? Memphis's assistant head coach and Anthony Carter has retired. Mitch Early has retired as the head scout of the Toronto Raptors. Ben Sullivan retires as the assistant head coach of the Rockets. Ed Doctor retired. The head scout of the Mavericks has retired as well. So the Mavericks are definitely going to be probably changing things up a little bit, I think. But I mean, they do still have Cooper Flag, so they still should be good, though. Noah Vincent, the CFO to Cavs, have retired. Kevin Nicholson, the CFO to the Heat. Hunter Thomas, the CFO to the Kings. And Eleftherius Aslanoglu, what a name, assistant GM of the Pistons, has retired. And a couple other guys that don't have contracts. Chuck Arthur, the head coach of the Hornets, has retired. The Hornets haven't been good yet, so they need a drastically new coach, I think. And we lost Neil Stewart Jr., who is our assistant GM. I think we had an assistant GM retire last year, too. So we do need a new assistant GM in this offseason, which hopefully we can find a good one. At least it wasn't our head coach. Magic lost their assistant head coach. Lakers and Jazz. Lakers lost JJ Redick. Damn, JJ Redick retired after 10 years as a head coach. That's like a lot shorter than I expected because he's not that old. Louis Donnery retires as the assistant head coach of the Jazz. Ben McDaniel, the head coach of the Raptors. A lot of retirements for staff this year. Most of them some decent names. Like I said, I didn't expect JJ to retire at this point. I thought he would have had a longer career, but I guess not. All right, Hall of Fame inductees. Giannis has made the Hall of Fame, and same with Jaylen Brown. Not really a surprise on either of those, especially Giannis, I would say. Jaylen Brown's kind of an underrated player, so it kind of makes sense that he'd make it. So there we go. Jersey retirements. Giannis actually does have his jersey number retired also by Golden State, which is kind of surprising. Jaylen Brown only has his number retired by the Celtics because he only played 1 year with the Mavs. But yeah, Giannis obviously known for his time with the Bucks, but in this universe, he signed with Golden State in 2027, and I guess he had such good years there that they decided to retire his number as well. So kind of interesting. All right. Now we get to the league meetings. Any league meetings get approved. Everything got rejected. The first one that got rejected was league expansion. Add 2 new teams to the league. I wonder if the AI actually can basically approve something like that and then random teams get added to the league, because that's kind of neat. I wouldn't mind there to be some more teams in the league, but also it would make it harder to make it into the playoffs and all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, I probably would reject something like that, but it'd still be cool eventually down the road. Rising Stars game challenged 11 players per team. Doesn't really matter that much. Bonus stuff. Number of fouls. Teams are prohibited from trading first round picks in consecutive years. That's kind of an interesting one. Not that we trade stuff, but that would prohibit some big name players trading their first rounders for multiple years if they're a dynasty based team, I guess, technically. So those all got rejected, but we'll advance. All right, draft lottery. Obviously, we don't have a pick in the draft lottery, so we don't really care too much about this. But currently, the best odds is the Denver Nuggets. Then it's followed by the Bucks, still with the same odds, and the Suns. Then you have the Nets, Grizzlies at 11.5%. Hornets, Trailblazers at like 8.3, 8.2%. Then everybody else is below 4%. So I wonder who's going to end up winning it. I guess if I think of it, I'll put up who moved up the most, or if I could think actually who moved up the most. Let me actually just write down some of these teams, and maybe that'll help things. I hate that I have this controller drift still. I think I mentioned in the last episode, but it's really annoying. So I'm going to just write down all these teams as much as possible, so that way I could kind of see who moved up a shit ton. Because some teams randomly move up with really low odds, so it'd be kind of neat to find that out. Let's see. Okay, I think I wrote down enough. I wrote down 10 of those teams. I don't think anybody in the last bit will move up that much. So who's going to win the draft lottery in 2034? The answer is the Denver Nuggets. So the teams that were actually with the 14% odds all stayed in the exact same position. So there was no movement in that top 3. But the Nets moved out of the top 4, and the Grizzlies moved into that top 4, I think, right? Yeah, they did. So the Grizzlies and the Nets kind of flip-flop spots, if you guys were wondering, just in case. The Cavs also, I think, moved up a little bit. Yeah, because the Trailblazers fell back a bit and all that. So just in case you guys wanted to know on the movement, I'm pretty sure Trailblazers dropped down like 4 points. But yeah, the top 3 stayed the same. The only major change, I guess, is just Grizzlies and Nets. But obviously, we're going to be staying at number 31. So hopefully we could get a good player in this episode. I'm really not too sure what to expect from this class whatsoever. So staff signing, we have everybody under contract except for our head scout, which is kind of not ideal. I don't remember who our head scout was before, but we need a good head scout. So obviously, that is what we're going to do. This guy's 100% interest, so maybe he was our head scout last year. Can I see who he was with last year? No, I can't. I wish there was a way to see if they were with your team last year. This guy's only got a half a star on offense. I don't even know if that matters much. Oh, his analytics and stuff is good, though. So, yeah, this guy, we're going to definitely just try and bring him in as our head scout. And then we also need an assistant GM because obviously we just lost ours to retirement. So, let's try and go for this Lance Ball guy. Because why not? I don't really care too much on who's the assistant GM. All right, so Lance Ball will be on board. Graham is tentative right now, and he rejected. God damn it. I want a good scout, because then you could actually scout more players with that scout. So how as good as Doyle? Doyle looks not bad either. 4-star. We'll go for Doyle then. Judd Doyle. We might not be able to scout as much people as last year, though. So Doyle is on board. We'll advance on that. And now our scouting is, apparently it says the department overview. Our scouting's only 1.5 star apparently, but front office is still 2.5 stars. I feel like definitely we could use a better staff maybe down the road, but obviously our head coach is our main guy. and he's been doing really well with this team. So let's advance on that. Since we got everybody ready to go for that, we can now go over to the draft combine. And we're probably just going to put a bunch of point guards and shooting guards in this spot because when we get to the actually choosing the workouts and all that. So let's see who's the fastest out of everybody. The fastest is Quinn Person, who is a shooting guard. Him and Nelson Wallace as a point guard. Best lane is going to be Lonnie O'Neal and Quinn Person again, as well as Craig Chandler. Usually always the point guards and shooting guards are the fastest, I feel like. Best vertical is center Rex Stevens, as well as shooting guard Sidney Pollard. All right. Best bench is going to be some stronger guys like Percy Ingram as a center, Ulf Johansson as a power forward, Deion Jenkins. But Percy Ingram is by far the strongest. Standing 15-foot jump is going to be Samuel Payne and Percy Ingram again. Moving is going to be Deion Jenkins and Percy Ingram. So Percy Ingram looks like he's going to be a good player based on a few things. Carlton Douglas, Monty Braun, or Brown, one of the two. I know sometimes it's pronounced Brown, so are the best in standing. What is it? Standing, college three-pointer. Moving, college three-pointer is going to be point guard Ricky Farrell, as well as small forward Shane Joseph, and power forward Clay Haver. What a name. Standing three-pointer is going to be Eddie A. Jackson as a small forward, and the best moving is going to be Samuel Payne as a power forward. All right. Let's advance on that. And then let's go to the draft workouts. Like I said, we're probably going to just do mostly point guards and shooting guards. So how much people can I do at most? Let's see. So that way I kind of know how much I should do on each. Okay, so we could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we'll do the first 5 point guards, I guess. And then the next 5 will be shooting guards, because I think that's where we need to look the most. I don't think we're obviously going to be able to get Juwan Hollins because he's supposed to go so early. So I'm just not going to even scout him out at all. But let's get these other guys on here if I can. Yeah, that should be fine. Sidney Pollard's actually supposed to go kind of late. So Pollard could be really interesting. So you know what? Let's remove a guy from here like Ball because he's supposed to go early maybe. Add Pollard to this list because I feel like Pollard in person might be guys that we might actually have a chance to get. So in terms of the players that we have sent for the pre-draft workout, the fastest is Person. The best in lane agility is Pollard in Person. Best in vertical is Pollard. Best in bench is Charles C. Finley, as well as Nelson Wallace. Standing is going to be Carr and Pollard. Moving is going to be Washburn and Wallace. Standing is going to be Schumacher and Neely. Moving is Washburn again. Standing is Knight and Wallace, and moving is going to be Knight in Person. So I feel like Person, Wallace, Pollard, those type of guys are people I might have interest in. Maybe Neely as well. It depends on, like I said, on who's available at our spot, but there should be some options available to us at that spot that we could actually take, which is good. So let's advance on that. And now it is draft time. Are we going to be able to hit as the last pick in the first round? Hopefully. Well, obviously, we're going to take a slow approach to the first round where we see where everybody drafts and stuff like that, just in case there's any trades and all that. But let's hop on in, and we will put it on enable automatic draft advancement so we can get to our pick fast. But let's find out how good this draft actually is. So first overall, Denver, what are they going to select? They take Maxwell Adams, the center. So a center off the board early. Milwaukee at number 2. Is going to select Al Barnes, the power forward. He's actually from Memphis, so it would have been interesting went to Grizzlies. But the Suns take shooting guard Juwan Hollins. So there's the guy, like I said, I don't think there was a chance we're going to be able to get him. Grizzlies at 4 take another center, Dustin Coleman. So a couple centers going early. Brooklyn at 5 is going to take Wesley Ball, the shooting guard. Yeah, I didn't expect to get somebody like him. Charlotte at 6 takes Artem Markov, the power forward from Ukraine, 7 foot tall. The Cavs take Philip Chaney as a small forward. The Clippers at 8 are going to make a trade with this 8th overall selection. They trade that 8th overall selection and Brian Hickson, or they acquire they trade the 8th and Brian Hickson to the Clippers, and the Clippers get back. Actually, no, Milwaukee was the one that traded for that pick, right? Yeah, I think that's what it means. So Milwaukee actually gets the 8th overall pick and Brian Hickson as a point guard. The Clippers get Nick Smith Jr., the shooting guard, and Derek Whitehead, who we've seen before, I think. So I think that's what went where. Actually, never mind. I think based on the arrows, maybe it's the 8th overall pick going to the Clippers. Honestly, don't even know how to read that screen. But anyways, 2 players headed to one team and 1 player and 8th overall headed to the other. So there is that. Let's go continue on that. Yeah, the Bucks are the ones that acquired that pick. They take shooting guard Lonnie O'Neal with that selection. Boston at number 9 takes small forward Donnie Wolf. What a name. Good old Donnie Wolf with a nice little pencil stash. Point guard Dirk Schumacher from Germany heads to OKC. What else we got here? Portland takes us another center, Larry Madsen from Illinois. Lakers take power forward Matthew Holmes, 6'10", from Louisville. Next up, we have another trade, it looks like. Nope, never mind. That took a little bit. Glenn Dawson, the power forward, heads to Atlanta. Miami next at 14 takes CJ King, another center. So there is a lot of centers in this draft, it seems like, right now. Then there's power forward Clay Caver with the cool name heading to the Wolves. Orlando next at 16 will make another trade. So there's another trade, 8 picks apart. 16th overall heads to the Cavs from Orlando. Orlando gets back a lottery protected first rounder for next year and also a second round pick or not actually next year's draft. It's 2 years away, this draft pick, but a little bit of a pick swap in that one. And Orlando gets an extra second because of it. All right. So no players involved in that trade. Gus Vaughn is off his way to Cleveland from Notre Dame. Chicago at 17 takes center Deion Jenkins. Yeah, there's a lot of centers. There's been at least 6 of them so far here early. Pacers select power forward Samuel Payne. All right. Next up, we have Golden State. They select point guard Nelson Wallace. So that's one of the guys that maybe we were looking into. Next up, we have Brooklyn taking Marvin Carr, a shooting guard. All right. Washington now on the clock takes shooting guard Quinn Person. Damn, man. I feel like all these guys are players now that we're looking into. So hopefully there's somebody still there. Bradley Neely goes as well. He's gone to New York. That's another one we looked into. Point guard Doyle Hamilton. I don't think we looked into him at all. Heads to Sacramento. Small forward Eddie A. Jackson heads to New Orleans. He looked like he was going to be a pretty good player based on shooting. Small forward Norm Claxton on his way to Toronto. Next up is Houston. They will select shooting guard Tracy Knight. That's one that we definitely were looking at a little bit. Utah on the clock next takes power forward Jimmy Red from Virginia Tech. Next up, Detroit selects Derek Peterson, a shooting guard from DePaul, wherever the heck DePaul is. OKC will take point guard Charles C. Finley, who was a guy definitely that we could have taken. And lastly, before our selection, Michael Kerr heads to the Philadelphia 76ers. All right. All right, so we're on the board here. A lot of guys that we were just interested in just went. However, there is some point guard here in Clifford Washburn, who might be really good overall and really young. What's his potential looking like? C potential, though. I like that his defensive rating's a B-, but I don't know if I could get behind drafting him. What's his comparison? All-star bench. That's not bad, so maybe he's actually better than that. He is 100% scouted, though. So do we trust our scouts enough with that potential is the question. But aside from that, in terms of other point guards / shooting guards, this guy, we don't have scouted any of these guys else. So the only point guard I would probably take here is Washburn. It says he's a 3-point sniping creator. So he would be probably a good shooter based on some of that. It looks like he's good at perimeter defense as well, though, and playmaking, which is not bad. What were his badges, out of curiosity? Set shot specialist and slippery off the ball, right? So yeah, Washburn might be the option that we take here, but yeah, he can't play shooting guard, so we'd probably have to play him as shooting guard, or we play Buchanan at shooting guard, but he might be the pick here. Shooting guard wise, there is nobody that's 100% scouted, so I don't fully trust that at all, but there is Pollard, who was kind of intriguing when we were scouting him out a little bit. And we don't know how good he is. He's only 68% scouted, so I kind of wish I scouted him fully. But we do have a little bit of info on him. He is probably also a C potential guy. There's no guarantee on that. Looks like he's going to be more of an inside scorer, which isn't really what our team is like. So I don't know about Pollard. So I think the only option we really have here is Washburn, which I don't think is a bad one considering he's only 19. Last year or a couple years ago when we drafted Buchanan as well, I think he was really young. So this guy could be like just the same as Buchanan, or maybe he's better. Regardless, one of them is going to probably be playing shooting guard next season, and the other one will be the backup point guard. So I think we're going to go for Washburn unless there's a different option in a different area that might be more intriguing. None of these guys probably play shooting guard, I would assume. They're just all small forward / power forwards. What about these power forwards? Probably just centers and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I expected. And then these centers obviously aren't going to play shooting guards. So yeah, I think our best option here has to be the point guard, Clifford Washburn. So he's going to be our selection here because there's not really much else to go off of. And we don't really have a lot of other people scouted. So Clifford Washburn, let's hope that you're a good shooter, but you're going to be probably the replacement fully for Walter Reese. So let's stop the automatic draft advancement. It says that he has the best mid-range shot out of any point guard in the draft, according to Sean Devaney. So that's going to be interesting to see if he's actually that good. He's from San Diego State. So shout out to Clifford Washburn. Hopefully he's actually really good in the mid-range because I feel like a lot of our shooters are good, not necessarily fully in the mid-range. Some of them are good mid-range shooters, I think, but we need more guys that could score in the mid-range too. So maybe this could help us out with some depth scoring off the bench a bit. All right, let's simulate to our next pick here because now that we're into the second round, trades are less likely, I would assume. And we'll see what we could snag up with the last pick of the draft class. I honestly don't even know if there's going to be anything good here, but let's see what we could select with this last pick. See if we could find a random steal. Who is mostly scouted? Small forward, Oscar Dennis. I don't need small forwards really at all is the only problem. That's the only thing. I would probably prefer to take an actual shooting guard here. There is the Alexei Kolomak guy who was kind of the guy that was listed as supposed to get picked by our team, I think, or a team before us. But he's not scouted at all. We have no potential information on him whatsoever. It looks like he could be a good perimeter defender with okay shooting. But obviously it looks like he could be a D overall, which means he's going to be pretty trash. But I might honestly take a chance on him because he's another shooting guard option. Where is he from? He is from Ukraine. We've had good luck with the Ukrainian before, of course, with Semenko. So let's go for Alexei Kolomak. Maybe he doesn't even get a contract. Maybe he's actually really good. But we'll take him with our second rounder. Honestly, don't know what to expect from him. But there is Kolomak. Let's see what they have to say about him. Scouts love Alexei Kolomak's game. I have seen a very little of him play, but this feels like a good spot for him to get drafted. Ice Tigers fans should be excited about his ceiling. Hopefully he has a good ceiling. Hopefully he does. All right, so that is the entire draft. I would say hopefully that's a successful one, but obviously since we're drafting late, we honestly have no idea. But here's a look at this year's draft as a whole. So Maxwell Adams looks like he's going to be a beast, 79 at 19. Does he have A+ potential as well or something, or what? Like, is this guy the next best Bernard Russell or something like that? Let's see. Grades. B+ potential. I think he could definitely outgrow that for sure, though. But looks like it was a pretty strong top 3. Then obviously drops off a little bit. But obviously I'm more interested in what our pick is looking like. But I'll still skim through this just in case you guys wanted to see overalls and all that. This guy's a 75, but probably has like a C+ potential, I guess, right? Yeah. Or no, he doesn't. He has an A- potential. Damn, that's a good steal there for the Bulls at 17th. All right. How good was Person, though? Because I was kind of interested in Quinn Person a little bit. B+ potential, yeah. Quinn Person could have been a really good option if he would have somehow fell to us. What about Bradley Neely? B-. Yeah, some of those guys would have been probably good. But how good was our pick, obviously, with the last selection in the first round? Did we actually make a good selection? 72 at 19, so that's a good starting point. Is he have good potential? Let's see. B+ 3-point shooting. Obviously, his inside and mid-range not the best, but still B+ on 3-point shooting is good. Does have good playmaking, does have good perimeter defense, so that fits basically into our mold of our team in good shooting and good perimeter. Post defense and rebounding is bad. Athleticism is bad. Basketball IQ is bad. Potential's only a C, though. So yeah, he's basically like a better version of Buchanan, essentially, because he has the same potential around, I think. And he could shoot. but he's a little bit of a higher overall. So I'm not too sure which one wants to be our point guard, which one wants to be our backup shooting guard, but I think Washburn's probably going to maybe get playing time over Buchanan, but I would like to get them both playing time. Depends on, I guess, if Buchanan gets growth or not. And then let's head to the second round as well, because I am curious on, obviously, our second rounder. Let's see what went here. We'll skim through this as well. Not that any of these guys are probably going to be anything crazy, but we'll still skim through them anyways. So you guys can kind of see down the road if any of these guys were huge steals or not. How was the last selection in the draft? Kolomak was a 65. Ew, that's very low. Very, very low. Which obviously it said a D potential, but he does have good inside scoring and perimeter defense. But everything else is pretty below average, and he only has D plus potential. So, yeah, we probably should have taken Kolomak. That's probably why he fell so much. But, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know if we'll sign him even to his ELC or not, or whatever his contract, because it might be too pricey. But definitely our first rounder was good. Second rounder, not very much. But who knows, maybe Kolomak could be something down the road if he outgrows that potential. All right, rookie signings. Apparently we are signing both of them, so we might as well sign Kolomak. And then like I said, I don't think he'll get any playing time, but we might as well sign him to his ELC or whatever you want to call that contract. And then obviously Washburn's going to get signed, and he probably can get playing time next year because he's technically already better than Reese's overall wise too, I think. Team/player options. Evans is definitely going to get his options. We're definitely going to extend Carroll and Oliveiro as well. So that's going to be all accepted. Let's see. Evans accepted his as well. Perfect. All right, that's good. Qualifying offers. We're going to extend Buchanan. We are going to extend Rex Wright, of course. Lance Lloyd, I probably should extend as well. I do like him, so let's extend him for now. Moratorium, Rex Wright, obviously, we need to negotiate a big boy contract with him. He actually doesn't want as much as I was expecting. Maybe. Let's lower this a little bit, see if we could get him for cheaper. I think it would be nice to hold on to Rex for a good chunk of time. He's getting better. He is still kind of inconsistent, but we might as well sign him up here as another option. I guess technically we use him as a shooting guard sometimes, so we might not have needed to draft another shooting guard, but it was just in case. Let's go with, we could probably lower this more. Let's do 42.5 and see if Rex will accept that. Because obviously he's the big one to give a contract to, and he does fit our system really well, so we kind of want to hold on to him as long as possible. All right, Rex is going to agree. We are not renouncing Buchanan's rights or Lloyd's. We are going to renounce the rights, I think, to Reese and Wennington, though. Wennington is just kind of losing playing time. Reese is pretty trash. So let's do a salute to these guys. Reese was drafted in the second round in 2028, so quite a while ago at this point. But he definitely is not the player that we used to have. Like, he was pretty good, actually, at one point. He is a decent guy at stealing the ball, but this last season, he only averaged like 1.5 points per game through 10 minutes, which isn't useful enough. So we're going to let him go. And then Wennington is not bad. He had some good promise in his first season, but he's already 27 and he's not getting better. So we're going to let both those guys, I think, walk for now. I'm going to write down their names just in case they're both free agents at the start of the year, or if we want to see where they sign. But let's write down Wennington and Reese. And I'm going to renounce the rights for both of them just to free up some roster room and give some other guys more playing time. So we're going to go with that, and we will advance. Perfect. All right, so that's all dealt with, I think, almost. Yeah, we'll go through the moratorium stuff still. That's looking good. And last day of moratorium. Yep, that's good. Bye-bye, Wennington, and bye-bye, Reese. All right. So, do we need to negotiate any other contracts and stuff out of curiosity? Let's see. Is there anybody that needs a contract? Let me go to the contracts here for a second. Contract extensions. I can't. Nobody's needing a contract, so this is all good, I guess. All right. I'm curious to see the growth on this team, but hopefully it's good. Let's advance today, see if there's anybody that we need to still sign. I need to give Buchanan and Lloyd, I guess, contracts technically. So those are the only guys we need to work on negotiating with. So Buchanan and who was the other one that I just said? Let's go back to Buchanan here for a second. Where is he? Oh, wait, I guess I have to actually go to the contract part again. We could always just wait for them to accept an offer too, but let's see. They don't even appear in the contract extensions either. I guess I just have to actually wait till the end of this period. So let's just keep going through free agency like this and see if they accept. At least we have, we'll write down their names again too, just because I might forget. And I don't want to forget, so let's write down Buchanan so I can make sure I find a way to sign him again if he ends up leaving. And then also power forward Lance Lloyd. All right, perfect. Just because I don't want to have the same thing that happened to that one guy that went to sign in Brooklyn. I can't remember his name now. But just I don't want to risk losing people for free, basically. All right, so we should be finding out that these guys are going to accept those contracts here shortly, which they probably will because they won't get much offers from other teams, I don't think. Let's see. Lloyd accepts 3.72 and Buchanan accepts 3.61. So we do get our boys back, so I don't have to worry about looking for them anymore. Now comes, I think, the most exciting part of the offseason, the player progression. Let's make a little bit of a dramatic reveal, and let me change this over to different positions, and bango. All right, starting off with our point guards. We are suffering some drop-off from Everett Carroll because he's already 29. He has dropped down to an 89. His three-point shooting is getting a little bit worse and his athleticism. So if we want to win a championship, we got to do it soon or else Everett Carroll could be gone, which is kind of scary. That's why also drafting Washburn, I think, makes a little bit of sense just in case Carroll ends up dropping really hard. But Washburn obviously will be making his debut this season, so he didn't change at all. Buchanan is still staying pretty much the same. I'm surprised he dropped down to a 68 because I feel like he was decent, but his potential didn't change at all, unfortunately. But he will be getting probably more playing time this season than he did last year. And then we head on over to shooting guards. Rex Wright's up to a 93, so Rex Wright continues to get better. That's why we gave him that big, massive extension. But yeah, he's a 93 overall. He's getting better in rebounding, which is kind of nice. So Rex continues to become a great player. Colmack, obviously, is going to be going into his first season, but I don't think he's going to get any playing time whatsoever in his first year. And he might be let go of within one season, but it does give us a little bit more depth in terms of the shooters. And I think, what did I say? Was his shooting looking like? Yeah, he's got good inside scoring and perimeter defense, so I think he could be maybe somewhat of a useful player off the bench occasionally. We head to small forwards. Evans is up to a 95, which might have him as one of the best players in the entire league. So Evans is going to be a major, major threat this year. And obviously, I need to lock him up on a massive deal soon. But post defense, A-, playmaking A- now, and IQ jump to A+. Evans is due for a very big season. Very big. Semenko didn't grow in overall, but he did grow in inside scoring, so that's good. I'll still take him as a 91. Goodwin's up to an 82, which is very, very useful. That's what I was hoping for, because like I said, I think our bench hopefully should be a little bit better. And Goodwin being basically the seventh man on this team, that will really help things a lot. So he grew 6 points, and he's getting better in a lot of areas. Really, really good. He's got that A+ potential too, so as a guy that was drafted in the second round, Herb Goodwin might be one of the biggest steals on this team. We also have Jonathan Bridges, who did get some growth. He was our first rounder last year, 73 overall. Still not crazy. He doesn't have a high ceiling, but he is getting better in some areas, so he might get some playing time off the bench this year, which is nice to see. We head to power forwards. Westbrook is dropping at 27. So the original guys we drafted, Westbrook and Carroll, both on the decline. Westbrook's getting a little bit worse in inside scoring, B- to a C+, but he does still have great three-point shooting, but kind of surprised he's dropping at 27. Kind of surprised on that. All right. He's still good, but he's been a little bit injury prone and all that, so kind of a little bit worried on him. We also do have Edward Carroll, who's up to a 75, or staying as a 75, I should say. No growth whatsoever, but that's still useful off the bench. Same goes with Lloyd. That's still useful. And in our centers, Bishop is up to a 90 overall, so he gets one more point to growth. His IQ has gotten better. And then Oliveiro dropped in athleticism and actually got better in mid-range shooting, but he didn't go in overall at all. But he barely played last season, so any bit of growth is good. So basically, yeah, our team is going to be pretty strong, I think, this year, because our rotation is going to probably be a lot of the top six guys. Our top 5 guys, and then the top 6 guys, one of them's going to have to play off the bench. Evans is probably going to be a full-on starter this year again instead of 6-man. Rex Wright's going to have to probably... He's probably going to have to play as our shooting guard, or Semenko would have to play as our power forward. We might have to use Westbrook as the guy coming off the bench, to be realistic. Because I could use Semenko in that power forward spot, and Wright as that shooting guard spot, Evans as a small forward, Bishop as a center, and Carroll as that point guard. And then Goodwin would be also coming off the bench as an 82. And we have a bunch of 70 other guys. So, hopefully we stay healthy all year, but at least Goodwin's a great option for a small forward / shooting guard off the bench as well. But I'm kind of worried about Westbrook in his drop off a bit. So there's our team for the upcoming year. Very excited about that. Summer League, let's just get this filled out automatically. We don't really care too much about Summer League, but it'll be interesting to see what some of our younger guys do in these games, so that we'll keep tabs on it. We do lose our first Summer League game. Buchanan dropped 17 points. Like I said, Buchanan's kind of a good player for his overall, so I think he could be useful off the bench a bit. Carroll dropped 11. What else here? Washburn on 6 in his first game. And guys like Oliveiro didn't really do too much, 3 points. Bridges played 20 minutes with no points. And Colmack played 11 minutes with no points. All right, that's fine. Like I said, it's just Summer League. We're just trying to see how good our young guys actually could do before they end up making the NBA full-time. So, our next game's against Memphis. Let's simulate through that. Tigers versus Bears, basically. We win that one. Washburn dropped 17 points. Yeah, I think Washburn and Buchanan are very similar players. Like, we could afford to probably lose Buchanan if Washburn outgrows him fully. But aside from that, what else we got here? Oliveira on 7. Bridges on 6, 9, and 4. That's interesting. Carroll on 5 and 8. Colmack had 2, 2, and 2. I mean, I'll take that from a 65. Why not? All right, one more Summer League game. That's coming up against Orlando. Let's simulate through that. We win that one as well. Washburn drops 12. Carroll had a double-double, 11 and 10. All right, I'll take something like that every single day. Bridges had 8 and 10, which is solid. Oliveira had 7 points. Yeah, Colmack's definitely the worst prospect we have, or player we have on our team, but I still think maybe even though he's got low potential, maybe just 1 year of growth could help him. But if he doesn't grow at all, he's probably just a player that's just going to be sitting there for a while. So anyways, let's get through the rest of this and see how our team does in terms of the championship for Summer League. Let's see if we end up going far or not. We end up finishing as... where are we? Sometimes it's really tough to see where we are. Oh, 29th. We are facing Denver in this game. So let's simulate through a game. And we end up losing to Denver in the first round. That's okay. That was the box score in that one. Buchanan dropped 15 points. Carroll dropped 12. Washburn on 10. At least it looks like our top prospects are the guys that are usually picking up points. Oliveiro almost had 10 rebounds. So Oliveiro's definitely a useful rebounder off the bench. All right. So there is all that. Let's find out who ends up winning Summer League this season. The answer will be Milwaukee, as they beat Cleveland. So the 16th seed Milwaukee ends up winning. They did draft really high up this year, so it kind of makes sense. All right. Final few things left of this offseason. FIBA friendlies, obviously. This doesn't... oh, it does matter, actually. Never mind. Rex Wright has made Team USA for FIBA. That's pretty cool. So shout out to Rex Wright representing the US of A. Aside from that, any other guys representing other teams? Can I take a look at this? I guess I can. Let's see. Spain. We don't have any Spain guys on our team, I'm pretty sure. Germany has the 2 helmets, as was Uwe Holsehoff. I remember some of these guys getting drafted. Canada does not have anybody from our team. Greece, I don't think we have a Greece guy, so that doesn't make sense. Philippines, we don't have any of those. France, nobody from us, of course. Brazil, I don't have a Brazilian. Don't have any Puerto Ricans. Slovenia, don't have any Slovenians. South Sudan, no. Australia, don't have anybody there, but I do see generated Sid Smesko, who was a high pick at one point, I think. So yeah, the only one that's representing a country is Rex, which is pretty cool. I'm surprised he's playing with Cade, Clay, Bernard Russell, and Simon Lydon. So Rex is one of the worst of the guys on there, but he's in the starting lineup for the States, which is kind of cool. All right, let's head to the All-Star City selection. Who is hosting the All-Star game? It'll be in San Antonio in 2035, I guess, technically. Interesting. Good old San Antonio. So that is cool. All right. What about what's next? 2K Hoop Summit. I don't care about this at all because it just shows guys for the upcoming draft class. Let's just simulate through that game and advance to next season and get our team set up because now we got to adjust to minutes by ourselves. So, kind of curious on what we're going to be looking like this season in terms of that. Wow, Luka Doncic is retiring at the end of the season. That's crazy. So, that's a big retirement coming up. So, there will be another big player retiring from the league. But let's go to our coaching game plan and see what we want to work with. This is what it's suggesting right now. It's suggesting Carroll on 30 minutes, Rex Wright on 34, Semenko on 32. It does still have Westbrook as a starter over Evans, which I don't think I agree with. I think we would probably, like I said, probably lean towards using Westbrook as our, let's see. Yeah, we probably lean towards putting Westbrook in the spot where Evans is. So probably lean to something like this. Actually, let me go down to 31, 30 on that. Yeah, I probably would use Westbrook as a sixth man. So I would basically go Carroll, Wright, Evans, Semenko, Bishop, all are high-end players. Westbrook's, like I said, dropped off a little bit, but he's still good. He'd be in that sixth spot. Then we'd have Goodwin in the seventh spot. And then Lloyd and Carroll and all those guys get battled out a little bit. Doesn't have any playing time for Washburn or Buchanan. I kind of want some of these guys to get playing time, like I said, but I don't know if I could really take away minutes from guys like Lloyd and all that. It'd be good to get Washburn at least a couple minutes, but Bridges needs those minutes too, considering he was a first rounder, so maybe we leave Washburn there for the time being. But if you guys have a better idea on what we could do with the minutes going into next season, let me know. We could always reduce minutes on a lot of the starters down to like 20-something minutes instead, but obviously they are really, really good, so... I do think, though, some of these guys deserve some playing time, but they'll get in if there's any injuries and all that, I guess. So it just matters, I guess, if our team stays healthy or not. But I like the looks of this team. The starting is absolutely gross with everybody basically eclipsing a 90 except for Carroll. And then Westbrook coming off the bench instead of being a starter. Kind of an interesting one. I don't know if we want to do that fully, but I don't really want Evans being in that six-man spot. Even though he was six-man of the year last year, having a 95 in that spot is ridiculous. And then Goodwin coming off the bench is going to be good for us this season. So I like the looks of this. All right. In terms of system proficiency, let's see what we got here. 4.5 stars. So we're looking pretty proficient. I think this should be a good year for this team based on all that. We could easily be as the best team in the league again, I think. But obviously, hopefully we stay healthy for the playoffs. Power rankings, I don't think this updates before the season, but... I think, yeah, we probably should be the top team. It does have Houston as number 2. I feel like it did that last year, though, too. Because the 76ers who won the last 2 championships aren't in the top. So I think this is just not even updated yet, but it will update after a week of the season, likely. So there's that. Anything else I want to take a look at? I guess the upcoming draft class briefly here. Looks like there's a B prospect named Buchanan that's looking really good. Everybody else, it might be a weak draft class this year. So this would be a year for us to win a championship for sure. Or go on an absolute tear. But obviously we don't know anything about this class yet. All right, anything else we want to take a look at? I actually do want to go back to roster here for a second. I do want to see who the highest overall players are in the entire NBA right now at this point. So the highest overall is Leiden on the Rockets, of course. Dunleavy's the second best as a 96 with Bernard Russell. Evans is technically the 4th best. But look at the age gap on the others, though. He's got a 5-year gap, or like 5 year younger than Bernard Russell. He's 7 years younger than Dunleavy and 4 years younger than Leiden. So I think Evans will be a 97 at one point, maybe even higher. But he's insane. He definitely has boomed for sure. He's as good as Cooper Flagg already, too. So, yeah, Evans is going to have a big year, I think. But the best in each position, if you guys were wondering, best point guard is Cade right now. Technically, Carroll is one of the best point guards in the NBA, based on overall at least. Shooting guards, the best shooting guard is Rex Wright, which obviously we have on our team. He might have knocked Anthony Edwards off the States team, which is funny. So shout out to Rex Wright. Best small forward is Dunleavy, but right behind him is Evans. We honestly have the best players in almost every position so far. Best power forward, though, that's where we beat Bernard Russell. Yeah, power forwards definitely are one of our weaker points, but that's because Westbrook, it didn't really grow much after a certain point. And then centers, the best is Leiden. Yeah, centers is another weaker area, but Bishop is still a top 6 center in the entire league, or top 5 even, because he's tied with Nicholson, but he is a bit older. All right, yeah, we have definitely one of the best teams in the league, probably, I would assume. There's no way that we're not the best team in the league based on overall rating, right? I would assume at least. Let's do one last thing as well. Take a look at, let's see, our team history up to this point. So going into this season, you can see that we have 2 division titles. We obviously made the playoffs last year. Last year we were 68-14. We were tied for first in conference rank. It says right now, it says 3 playoff appearances. So this next year will be our 4th if we make it, which we probably will. And then of course retired numbers. That's just what's his name? Friggin' oh man, what the hell's his name? I don't want to butcher whatever his actual name is, but the big dude that retired a long time ago, that has his number retired by everybody. Honestly, can't remember. Anyways, yeah, should be an interesting season. We should be getting even better maybe than last year. And you can see over our years that we've made the playoffs, we've drastically gotten better. Since the start of this franchise mode, basically the first year, we don't even count that really because that year was weird. But we went from 1 win to 9 wins to 14 to 27, dropped down to 23, dropped up to 42 to 64 to 68. So this year, are we going to eclipse 70 wins and be as good as the 76ers were a few years ago when they won the championship? It could be the case. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft to Glory, MyNBA. So in next episode, we will simulate the entire season. We will probably be making it back to the playoffs, no, for sure on that. But obviously, I'm kind of worried still about health on this team. I really hope that this team's healthy going into the playoffs, because obviously if we suffer major injuries again, that still could hurt us a bit, but I don't think it'll hurt us as bad maybe, because now we have guys like Westbrook getting less playing time this season, Goodwin getting more playing time. I think Goodwin could be a very sneaky player for us in that 7 spot. So if he gets playing time in a playoff spot, he could still maybe do better than he did last year. So I think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.